Hello, folks. Welcome back to another Roma Press live stream. We are here right after the latest round of, the last round of the Champions League group stage games, which sees our good old friends Feyenoord drop to the Europa League once again. It's going to be an exciting time with the possibility of facing Feyenoord once again after all these years. Our good friends and at the same time sworn enemies. Um, we also have Milan, who just dropped to the Europa League after beating Newcastle with a very late winner. So that's exciting. A lot of things going on tonight, and hopefully a nice surprise in the next few hours as Roma look to play against Sheriff Tiraspol. I wanted to today to do this live stream in order to sort of preview the match that awaits Roma tomorrow. We can talk about a lot of different things because a lot of things have happened since Roma played against the Fiorentina on the weekend, and we all know about Paulo Dybala's latest injury, which is likely to rule him out at least until January. The latest rumors claim that he should be out for 3 weeks, which means that he could be back either for the Coppa Italia match against Cremonese, although that is a very optimistic prediction, more likely to happen between the dates when we face Atalanta and Milan in the first week of January. So today I wanted to exactly to touch upon these few things. We have obviously the whole incident with Romelu Lukaku being suspended, Dybala getting injured, Asmoon getting injured, as Roma then also prepare to face Bologna on Sunday at the Dallara Stadium. So another complicated match. I will read out the comments if you have any questions, any talking points that you want to bring up. If you want to comment on tonight's results in the Champions League, such as Antwerp beating Barcelona, although obviously Barcelona already qualified to the next round, and Antwerp dropping out of the competition. If you want to talk about, I don't know, Atletico and Lazio going through once again, we can talk about that. I wanted to say hello to Mr. Duncan from Indiana. Thank you. Thank you so much. Draymond Green. Okay, I see that Duncan is trying to rile me up as a Warriors fan. Yes, it's not going too well. The Warriors basketball season, it's not exactly going as planned. So thank you, Duncan, for bringing it up. I appreciate it, and I'm a big fan of Tyrese Halliburton for Indiana. We could have had him, but obviously other things have happened, and I think we picked James Wiseman ahead of him. So in all this basketball talk, let's get down to what Roma are all about. Obviously Roma drew against Fiorentina, and I was wondering if among the people watching there's also people that have taken an issue with how John and I discussed the latest result with Fiorentina. There was a big uproar in on YouTube. Especially on YouTube and especially on Twitter as well regarding our take on the match. So since I haven't done a live stream after the game, I wanted to also encourage everybody, if you have any observations regarding the 1-1 draw against Fiorentina, please do so. And it can be anything. And if you have taken issue with, my point of view or Joint's point of view in the latest podcast episode that dropped on Monday and is available here in video format on the YouTube channel or anywhere that you get your podcast from, please do so. I'll be curious to hear your thoughts and also engage with them. So, and I love Mourinho being shady on his Instagram. Yes, Mourinho. Well, that's also another thing that we can say. It was interesting, and interesting outcome to the Fiorentina game, which usually when Roma do go on media silence, that happens when we lose badly. This time, it happened after we drew. We were down to 9 men by the end of it, with Nicola Zalewski picking up a second yellow and obviously Lukaku getting a straight red. And Roma, I think, from what I understand, it was just Mourinho's instruction was to just sit tight, don't say anything, and that's what the club did. They didn't say anything besides release some information regarding the injuries. Apparently, at the beginning, there was some slight optimism with regards to Paulo Dybala's injury after he exited the pitch at around the 20th minute. But obviously, that enthusiasm, that optimism was short lived, and Dybala is out for 3 weeks. And then Mourinho, obviously, as always, typical Mourinho, went on Instagram, shared a cryptic quote, and sort of made it clear that he was not having any of it with regards to some of the decision making by the referee on Sunday. Again, up for a debate. I guess people can choose what to focus on. People can have an issue with Mourinho focusing rather on the refereeing aspect than on what happened on the pitch. As we said on the podcast, I still maintain that the performance was there to begin with. It's just Roma seemed incapable of dealing with different scenarios. So Paulo Dybala's injury caused Roma to sort of spiral out of control, which they seemed to, they went up into that game against Fiorentina and they looked red hot. And Dybala was looking great. But as soon as that happens, obviously, the whole plan, which is one plan, and that is something that I take issue with. I don't take issue with anything else in particular with regards to that match. I do take issue with the fact that once Dybala is off, it's sort of Roma accept that you cannot compensate for his absence. And I think today's press conference, which saw Mourinho respond to a question asking about Dybala's importance to the team and the consequences of his absence, Mourinho didn't make it a secret that this team is so reliant on Dybala that basically they've accepted that nobody is like him. And I think that in the long run, if that is your mentality, it can really hurt you with regards to some of the upcoming games. Anyway, let's get back to the comments. Tuned in from Kenya, Zawan, thank you for tuning in all the way from Kenya. Finally got the timing right for this one. Well, Zawan, cheers to you, my friend. I'm sorry I have a bit of a sore throat, so I'll be having eventual sips from time to time. I did think that Roma started parking the bus even before Dybala got hurt. Playing at home? Interesting. Yeah. Duncan. Mads, our good patron Mads, draws against Fiorentina can happen, especially when going down to 10 men in the middle of the second. I've seen worse disasters. Mads, I absolutely agree with you. And I don't see the game as a disaster. I think John was much more on board with that sentiment in the latest episode. I accepted the fact that given the circumstances, given that you were down to 9 men, it's a point that you still take home. It's a point that you gain over the likes of Napoli and Milan, obviously. But at the same time, it is an opportunity that was right there for you. And it's a shame. It's a shame that it did not pan out the way it should have, given the start that we got off to. So absolutely not a disaster by any means. Roma are still there. Roma are still holding top 4 position. The problem is that everybody else is not so far behind you. And the question is, as always, do we trust Roma to carry out their objectives, right? To carry out their assignment, to do their homework? Do we trust them in this situation as they look to face Bologna, Napoli, Juve, and then Atalanta and Milan? That is a rough calendar if you, like Roma, have this mindset of, well, without Dybala, we are already in a disadvantage. If that is your mindset, things are going to get complicated from here. It's a fact, obviously, that there is no player like Dybala in the squad. But for example, somebody like Lorenzo Pellegrini, can't Lorenzo Pellegrini step his game up and sort of take over in Dybala's absence. I think that is a plausible hypothesis that somebody could make in this situation. What are your thoughts about that? Can Pellegrini be the answer? Can Stefan El Shaarawy be the answer? As also Roma have to deal with Lukaku's absence against Bologna, but that's another conversation that we will probably have later on in the week. No, Fiorentina was crazy. When Zalewski was playing actually good, I was thinking he's either creating our next goal or he's messing something up. And Lukaku, well, that was definitely something. It's the Fiorentina game is, as always, Roma at its finest, showing really good things in those opening minutes and then losing themselves. And most of the time, it's not even because of Fiorentina. Fiorentina were not good. Fiorentina did not look dangerous. Fiorentina wouldn't have won this game had gone for another 90 minutes. That's the truth, Ruth. That was my take and my reference to the Spike Lee classic. I have no issue with us hunkering down when getting overwhelmed, but if we are going to sit back and take the hits, Bove should have come in at halftime. I think we'll see Bove play tomorrow. We will definitely see Houssem Aouar play against Sheriff Tiraspol. I assume we will see more of Bove in the weekend against Bologna. It's going to be interesting to see how Houssem Aouar, a player that to begin the season with, I don't know if you guys remember, but in that rough stretch at the beginning of the season, we all took issue with Roma's performances against Salernitana, Hellas Verona, but we remember one of the few bright spots was Houssem Aouar, who seemed to be actually, at that moment in time, the only signing that Roma had made in the summer that was actually having quite a good impact and actually showing things, promising things. Since then, Aouar has lost himself, and he admitted it today in the press conference. He said, I know my performances were not good enough. I know that against Servette I played bad. I know that I have to do more. And I really do think that he's the kind of player that he just needs one good game to sort of get his groove back on, and it would be very, very helpful for that to happen in this stretch. We can also mention our good old Renato Sanchez, who retweeted our tweet, which contained an article translated from La Repubblica. So again, I want to, if anybody's watching and sometimes has an issue with what we publish, I want to reiterate Roma Press's entire purpose. Roma Press delivers translated news from news article from all over the world, but mostly Italy, so that an international audience of viewers and readers can enjoy news about Roma in English without having to go through an Italian course. Okay, that's the main purpose of Roma Press. Yes, we occasionally publish exclusive articles when John interviews an agent or when John gets maybe a photo from the airport as one of the latest signings arrives. Whatever it is, we always make it clear that that is a news directly from us. But most of the time, we take the news that we see in the Italian media, in international media, and we translate them or repackage them for Roma Press. That article about Renato Sanchez going to a witch doctor was written by La Repubblica, and we obviously know what happened next. Renato Sanchez retweets our tweet of that article and says he hasn't gone to consult a witch doctor, which I don't know if we should be happy or sad about it, because we've tried everything. Remember that wonderful video? We can't beat this guy. We are trying everything. Yeah, well, that's what we're doing with Renato Sanchez. A big mystery, a big question mark, and another player like Houssem Aouar, who, if he gets his groove back on, and that's an even bigger if than Aouar, he could help us a lot in this stretch of games. Mourinho said that he will play, hopefully, 45 minutes tomorrow, if the circumstances allow it. So potentially, Renato Sanchez could make his first start in a long, long time tomorrow. let's get back to the comments. Spinazzola spent too much time with Renato. He got to the point where he gets injured in his bed. Yeah, that was the latest news story of Spinazzola waking up one day and feeling tightness in his thigh muscles and not being able to play against Fiorentina. Now he is questionable against Bologna as well. Guys, I know I appreciate every one of us that is here. 20 people, that's great. I don't expect many more to join, but to make things easier, if you haven't already, click the like button. We only got 10 likes, and it would be really great to have more people see this live stream on YouTube and join us to discuss all things Roma. And if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, click on the subscribe button below. This is where you can find all the Roma Press podcast episodes in video format, and you can also get exactly these live streams. Tuned in from Jamaica. We haven't seen Belotti playing for a while. Is he injured? No. Thank you. First of all, thank you for tuning in all the way from Jamaica. That is amazing. Second of all, Belotti should be playing tomorrow. Should be playing on, if not tomorrow, then certainly on the weekend, because Romelu Lukaku is suspended. Paulo Dybala injured. Belotti is healthy. Belotti hasn't played for, I guess, technical reasons. That's what you could say about that. It's weird, isn't it? Because there's a player who spent all of last season in a very difficult spot. You know, going scoreless for the first time in his career in Serie A was a major hit, I think, to him after, you know, that big summer as a free agent, signing with Roma, big move from Torino, and then nothing, then underwhelms on all fronts. Well, he got off to a hot start this year, had 5 goals to his name, and all of a sudden disappears and is sort of way below in Jose Mourinho's pecking order. And I don't know. Mourinho hasn't explained that decision, but I think we can all agree that it would be good for Belotti to once again sort of prove himself and show, because he was showing things before Romelu Lukaku signed on with Roma, was eventually allowed to play his first games, was against Milan right in the final minutes. Belotti was the man for Roma, and then in the Europa League, he actually did good things with Lukaku on the pitch as well. So I don't know, but Belotti should be starting against Bologna on the weekend. At least that's the latest rumors in Italy. Against Bologna, maybe push Pellegrini further forward with Belotti, put Bove in Pellegrini's midfield spot. But Mourinho actually, you're right, Duncan. Mourinho today in his press conference, when asked who could play in that two-man partnership up front, he mentioned El Shaarawy and Pellegrini. So Mourinho also sees Pellegrini as an attacking player, and I think that's great because he's been anything but since Dybala's arrival. So if you can utilize this forced absence of Dybala, this nasty, once again, I think it's the 4th time that he gets injured this season. If you can use that to your advantage and turn Pellegrini back into the Pellegrini that we knew from Mourinho's first season, just for, you know, a few weeks, it would be great. It would solve a lot of issues for you. And I think you're right. It would definitely give Bove more space and the ability to coexist with Pellegrini. We got a question about Aouar. Anyone feeling sorry for Aouar? That presser was a bit cringe. Poor guy got bombarded. Really hoping he can turn his form around for his and our sake. And I think we all expected more, especially. Oh, obviously. Once again, I want to say that in my mind, Aouar is signed with a different transfer window in mind. Aouar is signed in a different realm than the realm where, say, Paredes and Renato Sanchez are signed. That's a different, like, Aouar is signed so early on in the window that Roma, for sure, with Nemanja Matic still on the roster, they had a whole different idea of what Aouar would be all about. And it's true, he was bombarded with questions about, so he even was asked about his future at Roma. Like, is there a possibility that you might leave in January? No, he said, my future is here. I know I have to do better. Mourinho made me aware of the things that I've done wrong. He's the right coach for me, blah, 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 blah. Obviously, all things that you have to say. But I do think there is some truth to it. This is a player that for the first time since he started playing, he left Lyon. He was he's a homegrown product at Lyon, his place, obviously. And I think the change and also Roma's own issues and sort of process of figuring things out did not help him. He got injured. Remember, there's that stretch where I think he scores against Cagliari, and that's great, and then he gets injured right after that. That did not help things. But I do believe that in a state of emergency, which I think is right now, because given the calendar, given Paulo Dybala's absence, this is definitely a state of emergency. Aouar could be helpful to the cause. This is not a player by any means who we can write off at this moment in time. Pellegrini has no creativity. Oof, wow, that's a bad take. That's a bad take because you really only need to go back to Mourinho's first season, Fonseca's second season, I believe, also, or was it Fonseca's first season? Well, anyway, when he went double digit, he was sort of the main driving force of Roma's attack. Even with the likes of Borja Mayoral and a sleepwalking Edin Dzeko, he was the guy making it all happen. So I think saying he has no creativity doesn't take into account the player that he was prior to Paulo Dybala's arrival, which I think definitely messed things up for him. Loving the live, Andy, in an Australian friendly time. Well, thanks so much, man. I appreciate it. I really appreciate everybody that takes the time from all parts of the world to tune in. It really means a lot. It's great support, sort of to keep these live streams going. And as long as people want them, I'll keep doing them. Zoan gives us a look at the teams that could potentially face Roma if they finish second in the Europa League group stage, which is likely, and in the next round. So we got Galatasaray, Lens, Feyenoord, Braga, Benfica, Young Boys, Shakhtar, potential Roma round of 32 opponents. All are beatable, but they can easily beat Roma. That's a great take, Zoan. Absolutely. I think that's a wonderful way to describe Roma. Everybody's beatable. At the same time, they can also beat Roma, right? That's wonderful. I like it because it's idiosyncratic. It's a paradox, but it totally makes sense with Roma. You're absolutely right. That is the case. You can have an opinion. You can prefer one team over the next one, but the truth is, say, if Roma face Young Boys, whom we faced, what was it, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, on that artificial pitch, and we lost, I think, to them. It wouldn't be that much easier than, say, facing Feyenoord again, And again, that's the truth. Zoan continues. In my opinion, we have to avoid Galatasaray, Feyenoord, Lens, Shakhtar due to Roma's away form. I prefer Young Boys, Braga. It's going to be tough. Oh, absolutely. Couldn't agree more, Zoan. Agreed, says Limited Escapism. Agreed. In these next games, without Dybala, Pellegrini has to step up. This will be the period that defines his utility and captain material in this team. I mean, not only that, it also, I mean, he needs this as a footballer right now because he's got nothing going for him. How long has it been since Pellegrini got a good, nice goal in or a really spectacular assist? Obviously, he still has these things in him, but it's just a matter of reacquiring that confidence that he once had, and now he seems to be, running very low on it in a moment in time where Roma absolutely need everything they can get from players with Pellegrini's quality. He's no Paulo Dybala, obviously, but he's probably the closest one in terms of what he can do on the pitch on a good day. We're lucky Lukaku is suspended for just one match. Bologna match will be interesting, but let's not think about it yet. I agree. I think I think people don't realize how difficult Bologna will be. People that skip over and go directly to Napoli, to Juventus, Atalanta. Bologna, for my money, at the Dallara with Thiago Motta coaching them at this moment in time. Obviously, they were unbeaten. They were going on an unbelievable run. Recently, their results um, have been a bit up and down, but still, this is a team that will fight tooth and nail with you. They're unbelievable. So um, they cannot be underestimated by any circumstances. Great live, Andy. Thank you, Shani. Always so knowledgeable of what's going on with Roma. Too kind, Shani. Um, let's go. Go for we got our patrons, obviously having a good time in the chat. We got Mihao. Mourinho needs to solve the team's inability to play the ball out of the defense when the opponent presses high. At times, the defense practically did the playmaking for Fiorentina. I think the defense has these days where they look sharper than most days, and then obviously, uh, even Mourinho once again went over the fact that we lost Roger Ibanez in the window. It's so funny that to see a player that was so despised by a lot of fans, and a lot of fans took issue with Ibanez, and Mourinho cannot seem to stop mentioning him whenever he's asked about Roma's current defense and the fact that they've been, more unpredictable in that department since compared to last year, obviously, where they were one of the best defensive sides in all of Europe. Ibanez is the first word that comes out of his mouth. It's unavoidable at this moment. He mentioned Smalling, but we obviously know what he said today about Smalling, where in praising Gianluca Mancini's availability, saying that Gianluca Mancini is so great. He plays through pain, he plays through injuries, and he's going to play tomorrow despite the fact that he is hurt, blah, 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 blah. Because unlike someone else who, at the slightest feeling of pain in his pinky, refuses to play, Gianluca Mancini is not like that. Well, that was clearly friendly fire on Chris Smalling, but Mourinho is constantly talking about the defense as an. I think he just took a lot of comfort in the fact that Roma's defense last year was sort of the backbone of the team, and right now this backbone is lacking. This backbone is not there anymore. He has to rebuild it, and there is a lot of things that sometimes go right and a lot of things that go wrong, and we've seen it. We've seen it happen time and time again against Inter, against Sassuolo, against Genoa. So all these things happen for a reason. Now, whether that is because Chris Smalling is not there or Roger Ibanez is not there, I don't know. It could be reductive to say that, but still, it's interesting to see how Mourinho views this issue, which is an issue actually, because now you're going to go up against teams that, hey, if you make a mistake, they'll pay. I mean, you'll find yourself being pushed against the wall. Napoli, as mediocre as they've been and as bad as they have been, um, you let Osimhen see the light of day, he's gonna bully you. Same thing goes for Xerxes at Bologna and well, Juve to a lesser degree. For Juve, you have to watch out for Gatti, so the defender. And no, I'm not gonna do the actually pathetic impression that Juve fans have now made of Gatti, which obviously in Italian means cats. So if you don't know, Juve fans have started doing a meowing sound to celebrate whenever Gatti scores. Go to whatever it is you do for. Okay, we got again patrons having some fun. Can one interpret these late streams in Scandinavian time as anti-Scandinavianism? Andy, no, I'm fully on board with the pro-Scandinavian agenda of our good patron Mads, so you're not going to get me on board with that anti-Scandinavian sentiment. Got enough water tonight. I got a whole bottle of water, and it's probably not enough. Also, last thing about Fiorentina, it's another what if type of game for me. Thinking about Dybala and Cristante goal opportunities, we would be 3-0 up and then chill at the end of the match. It would have been a whole different story. That Cristante decision making broke my brain. I still don't understand what the hell was wrong with him, why he didn't shoot. That's probably the number one thing you shouldn't do when you have that kind of occasion, right? If you're Roma and you're working uh, as hard for these opportunities as you usually do, you cannot let it happen. You just cannot. You have to make the best of it. That is definitely something that we've seen time and time again. It's nothing new. I think last season was definitely a more prominent time for such mistakes, but I do think that at this moment in time, with the way things are going in Serie A, with the way the table is set up right now, this is going to cost you. If you keep doing this on a more regular basis, it's going to cost you. That's why the Fiorentina match, obviously, looking at it from a glass half full perspective, is a blessing. In the fact that you were able to contain Fiorentina while being down to 9 men has to be celebrated given the circumstances, right? Um, Gobbi fans are so original. Yes, it's quite pathetic. I think also because it was started by the guy who streams for the official Juventus channel. So just imagine a grown man meowing in front of a camera, and that is pretty much what happens right now whenever the Juventus streamers stream after Gatti scores. Zoan, hopefully Roma will still be in contention for the fourth spot in mid-January, even without Dybala. Yeah, that is a big question. Really, that is the big question. We all remember what happened last year. We found ourselves sitting third in the table, right? It was the golden moment in March. What was it? What was it? Right after we beat Real Sociedad and went through to the next round. I don't remember, but I do remember that it was around that time when things were looking so smooth for us, and then a bunch of players got injured. Smalling, Karsdorp, eventually Dybala against Atalanta, and third place just sort of slipped from us. But why? Because everybody else was so close to us. So it's so important for Roma to just at least try to get these next 3 games right. And as Zoan said before, these teams are beatable. You cannot convince me that Juve, Napoli, Bologna are not beatable. They are beatable. The problem is they can just as easily beat Roma. That's the whole philosophy that I completely agree with Zoan. Once again, that was tremendous what you said there, and it's absolutely true. So can they still be here in this very same place in January? Sure, they could. Even without Dybala, I still think they could. But it's once again a matter of, do they have it in them to be a little bit more flexible, to not give in so easily when things don't go according to plan, which is quite often for Roma. Tyler, I must say, as negative as it felt to draw the last game, sitting here 4 days later, I'm much more relieved we managed the draw with 9 men. A draw stings, but but a loss would have meant more. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously the drawing this last game was frustrating because of the opportunity had presented itself to you, but given the domino effect of events that took place in that match, 1 point, great, you still, it's like you're there, okay, you still got it, you haven't messed it up. So it's like that story in Magnificent Seven when Steve McQueen tells the story about the guy that fell from the 10th floor. And at each floor he was falling, he kept repeating, so far, so good. So far, so good. Zaleski was doing okay before his mistake, says Rocco, but wow, was that an idiotic challenge. I can see why Mourinho doesn't trust him. But the question is, who does Mourinho trust of our wingbacks? I mean, we've seen everything. Again, we're trying everything. We are trying everything. Karsdorp, Christensen, Zaleski, Spinazzola, Salik. Tomorrow we could be playing with Karsdorp and Salik at the same time. So God knows who Mourinho trusts right there. I think the answer is nobody. In my mind, it's, I mean, that's evident. Both of these goals opportunities would be Zaleski assists, and he ended up with a red card instead. Kind of said, yeah, he's not having a good season. Zaleski is having a quite terrible season, and that is that is in a season that has Spinazzola once again being atrocious and not providing any sort of consistency on that left wing. So the fact that Zaleski cannot make that leap forward is quite sad. Looking ahead, Mourinho alluded to his willingness to stay at Roma in the press conference. I guess it's all on the ownership now to meet him halfway. Mourinho and the fans bullying Big Dan Friedkin to expedite the renewal. I don't know. I mean, people sort of interpreted his words in so many different ways. Mourinho, when asked about his renewal, he said, I don't need to think about it. I know exactly what I want, right? So, okay, I mean, people interpret it as in, I want out, I want to go to Chelsea, whatever it is that people think in these moments. And other people, again, like you, were, okay, he's on board. He wants to stay. I do think I'm leaning more towards the I want to stay part of the deal, like as in, hey, the ball is in Roma's court. Like this is, you know, it's their time to play the game, and that will happen eventually. That will happen. He once again pointed to the fact that him, Dan Friedkin, Thiago Pinto, they hold constant conversations regarding the upcoming transfer window in January. He knows the means are very limited. He knows that financial fair play is a real thing for Roma, and so he only expects a defender. But sort of the sense that I got from it is that he's aware once again of the reality that he's in, and he's fine with it. He is fine. He's learned to accept it. He's learned to work with it. That is at least how I've interpreted this this particular version of Mourinho that we got today. Spinazzola has been awful, and I wonder why Mourinho just wouldn't put Zaleski on. But yeah, you know, that Red said it all. Rocco. Yeah, I mean, two players that are going through a really tough stretch, and Spinazzola is, I mean, that's a play. He's playing. I mean, the way it's going for him, it's so obvious that this is a guy who is completely out of it at the moment. He's somewhere else. His contractual situation is causing him to be completely outside of Roma's entire entire vision, right? The spine of this team used to be Smalling, Matic, Dybala. Two of those are gone. Who do you think our spines? I think Mourinho has been trying to make that spine Lukaku, definitely. And I do think Mancini, because of the props that he's been giving him. And slowly but surely, Paredes, like it or not. I think that's his vision. You know, like that's his connection. Defender, midfielder, attack. Those are the guys. Those are the guys that he wants to be the backbone. Now, if that is the case, we all have issues with Paredes. We all can have issues with Mancini as a defender, whether he's quality enough or not. But I think that's the message is pretty clear when he plays them game in, game out, regardless of whether they are injured or not. Sylv is asking me about Mourinho's extension contract. I don't, Sylv, whatever you find on the website, I report it, and it has a title of the original newspaper that it published the article. So in that case, I think you're alluding to the article by, could be Il Messaggero. I don't know. I think these articles right now are dropping with the fact that, with the awareness that there is going to be a meeting with Mourinho, and with the awareness that Mourinho has got the fans behind him. The Curva Sud, after that draw against Fiorentina, did another standing ovation to Mourinho, kept chanting his name. It's obvious that the local fan base wants Mourinho, and so The assumption that Mourinho will extend is also partly due to the fact that for the first time in God knows how many years, there is a manager at Roma who has the entire fan base that attends the games, that is there, that makes its presence felt behind him. And I think so. They put it 1+1 = 2, and that's what you get. Roma are open to Mourinho staying because hey, Mourinho staying means every game is sold out. That gives you what 1 or 2 extra million euros for a sold out stadium. So that's good business for Roma. Whatever happens with Mourinho, says Rocco, I can only thank him for a trophy, attracting big name players, sold out crowds. Would love better football, but always great for what Mourinho has brought to us. I can agree with that sentiment. We got romances. Milan played a beautiful game, and they find themselves in the Europa League, which honestly is way better than having PSG drop down. We don't want to see Gianluca Mancini marking Kylian Mbappe, or maybe we want to see Gianluca Mancini marking Kylian Mbappe. That would be pretty fun. You can even put Salik on the left for Zaleski. That card is probably a lifetime lesson, but I don't want to see Spina in starting 11 anymore. I beg. I agree with the Spina thing. I don't want to see a player that is so disengaged. It's clear whenever he steps on the pitch that he's basically a ghost. He's not there. I don't want that to happen anymore. I'm tired. I'm tired of Spinazzola. If there is a player that is really getting on my nerves this season, which is very rare actually, it's Spinazzola. Just because of how evident it is that he's just hoping for something to happen with his contractual situation, something to come along, whether it's enough offer to extend his stay at Roma or an offer from outside. We got Rocco. As effective as Cristante has been this season, I long for the day when Roma team doesn't have to rely on a guy named Brian. Or is it the fact that he's Canadian? Is that is it because he's Brian, or is it because he's Canadian? So no, he's a lovely guy. Sylv, Milan finished third to avoid PSG or Newcastle eliminated altogether in Europe. Yeah, it's great news. We'll see. We also have Feyenoord, obviously, our good old friends. So it's going to be interesting how Roma play this out. Tomorrow, Roma have to win. They have to pray that Slavia Praha fail miserably against Servette, which is unlikely, okay, given how they've been doing really well in this group. They have to find a way to incorporate Houssem Aouar. They have to find a way to then try and recover Andrea Bellotti, because if a guy doesn't play all these minutes and if a guy doesn't step on the pitch and then you literally throw him into the mix against Bologna, that's not going to be good. So just and make Olimpico your home in this next few weeks. Make it your stronghold. Make it your tour de force. Make it your main strength. It is your main strength. So lean into it, embrace it, and don't drop points when you play at home. Just don't, because that's your safety blanket. So final comments of the night. We got Zoan. Milan joining Europa League might actually turn out to be a good thing. Atalanta, Milan, the Europa League. Lazio, Napoli, Champions League will likely affect their league form, especially to those teams in Europa. Yes, absolutely. It's only good for these teams to still be engaged on a number of fronts, right? We see the benefits of not having to play across a number of competitions, and what Juve are doing. It's quite evident that it benefits you greatly when you just have to focus on the league. Tomorrow it's either Empoli 7-0 or Servette horror. Nothing in between. Absolutely. Love that. That's how Roma roll, right? Either a masterpiece or a full-on blown disaster. Been following Roma for 2 decades, and I haven't seen the Olimpico continuously sold out. Like him or hate him, Olimpico loves Mourinho. Selling him is a mistake. Well, it's absolutely true. It's undeniable at this point, and that's why all this talk about his contract extension sort of being the driving force of Roma's long-term plans. It's undeniable that for Roma, a club that are leaking money from all sides, the fact that you can count on a sold-out stadium against a Moldovan side on a Thursday night in December is amazing. For Roma to do that continuously, game in, game out is an unbelievable achievement. So make of it what you will. Thank you guys for joining me. If you've enjoyed this live stream and you haven't subscribed yet to the Roma Press channel, click the subscribe button, click the like button on this video. Let's help us build this platform more. This is where you can get all your Roma Press podcast episodes in video format. If you like what John and I do for the podcast, for the website, for YouTube, for social media, it's just the two of us. You can support us by going to patreon.com/Roma Press. That's patreon.com/Roma Press. You can find the link in the description box below, and you can choose any plan you like, and you can support us even with just $1. It makes a world of difference to keep it going, to keep the ship sailing. So I thank you once again for joining me on such late notice, and I'll see you in the coming days. Hopefully Roma get a win tomorrow, and can look forward to beating Bologna on the weekend. So thank you again, guys, so much. Until next time, Forza Roma, as always.